The line is my favorite pollster, David Johnson. He's not part of the establishment. He always knows what's going on. Good afternoon, David.
Good afternoon. It's great to be on.
All right, thanks for being here. So, you predict these things, and we are at day 16 of being held hostage by the fake president, Joe Biden. You've seen everything that the Democrats are doing. Are they killing themselves already for 2022?
They are, but look, Nancy Pelosi doesn't care because she's already term limited herself and said in the past this is going to be her last term as Speaker, so she doesn't care. She's going to go as far left as she can to get everything that she can done. What's interesting, though, is Biden is using all of his political capital, offending so many people that he won't be able to get anything, probably not even a post office named, once Republicans take back Congress.
Oh, that's great. I hope so. We've got to win in 2022 to take back Congress. I cannot believe how bad the Democrats are. They're still continuing on with trying to kill Trump, and yet Trump's not there, and people are noticing, like, well, wait a minute, Trump's not there, so why are we still focusing on Trump? Shouldn't we be focusing on the economy, the vaccines, getting people back to work? And they don't seem to be doing that. But speaking of Trump...
It's because they're scared of Trump. Because if you look at the last election results, I mean, look how narrow his wins were in those 4 states that flipped the election. Biden's so-called win.
Yeah, I was going to say,
and they're terrified because they feel that if Trump comes back in 24 or a candidate with his message comes back and the economy continues to be bad, as many people believe it will be with the Biden policy, that Republicans will take everything. That is what they're trying to prevent more than anything. They're terrified that Donald Trump could come back and retake the White House. They live in constant fear of that. That is their new derangement.
Well, if you look at the election results, for example, one of the things that really ticked me off on election night was the failure of Fox and other stations to call Florida. Now, Florida is gone from a state that can go Democrats, sometimes Republicans, is back and forth. It's a solid Republican state now. I mean, that's a hardcore red state, and they don't seem to get it. And when they said that Florida was in play for Trump, I mean, I went down right after the election. You couldn't find a Biden sign anywhere where the whole state was covered in Trump signs. That is a solidly Republican state, wouldn't you say?
Oh, it really is. Even in 2019, I was down there, and they were already blanketed with Trump's flags, Trump signs. The state party is firmly behind Donald Trump. Florida is a solid Republican state now. They only have one Democrat office holder, the agriculture commissioner, and she was one who it's very questionable about how she got elected by 8,000 votes when every other Democrat that year went down to defeat. But it wasn't just Florida. Ohio now is definitely trending and more than likely all Republican as well. They only have one state office holder, Sherrod Brown, who's a Democrat. And Trump was leading by 8 points in Ohio, and Fox wouldn't call Ohio that night.
Right.
So they jumped the gun on Arizona. They set the momentum, and that gave Democrats an even more desired advantage going into how can we flip these states, what do we need to do?
Oh, well, I figured what they did was they hurt us in Arizona, which was voting late, and those people that are standing in line or thinking driving home from work, that whether they're going to go vote, they hear like, well, Florida's in trouble and Ohio's in trouble. They said, oh, forget it, I'm not going to vote. And I think that hurt us. But the other state that I would...
It did, and not only that, look at North Carolina as well. We were solidly behind, and they wouldn't call that for days, even after they called a state like Arizona and Nevada, where the margin was far slimmer.
Yeah, I agree. Now, another state that people don't see I believe is going to become a solid Republican state is Pennsylvania. You've got some pockets.
Oh, I think so, too.
Yeah, you've got some pockets, but at the end of the day, Pennsylvania is going to go Republican because, I mean, the fracking, the fracking issue, the coal mining issue, that state's going to go Republican solidly. So things are changing, and I think it's going to be a good Republican year in 2022, and we're going to get rid of some rhinos. I mean, I can't believe Pat Toomey, how much of a rhino he turned out to be. He's a Club for Growth guy, and he's turned out to be this rhino lately. But David, real quick, I wanted to talk to you about what's coming up on Monday is the impeachment. You do this polling stuff all the time. What advice would you give to Trump for handling the impeachment on Monday?
Don't say anything. Let the Democrats make a fool of themselves. Let them show themselves how extreme they are, how crazy this entire thing is, and how unconstitutional it is. Let his lawyers argue it and focus on the unconstitutionality and the craziness of this, impeaching a president who's no longer president.
Well, would you say just let them go on and on like he should have done with Biden in the first debate? Or would you take the opportunity to kind of expose some of the stuff that was done during the election that was unconstitutional and illegal? Would would this be his moment? Because I believe
I don't think this is the moment.
You don't think this is the moment?
Not from a PR standpoint. It's not the audience you want to do it in. You want right now the Democrats to stumble over themselves, because what you've got to look at is how does it help him in 2022 and then 2024. And letting those House members go on showing the extremism, the vindictiveness that they have, that is going to turn off a lot of Republicans, a lot of independents who, while they might have liked Republican policies, they didn't care for his personality that much. And that is going to help Republican House candidates and Senate candidates. And that's what the focus has to be right now, showing how extreme, how vindictive, how completely unfair and unconstitutional these House Democrats are. And hope maybe a couple of the senators on the Democratic side throw in some extreme questions as well. That's what you want to do. You want to focus on these crazy Democrats.
Well, yeah, I've been wondering from the Democratic point of view, how do they make the case against Trump when an attorney can get up and just play as a rebuttal what Trump said during his speech, go up there and peacefully march and protest? I mean, he did not antagonize them and say, go tear down that house. I mean, he didn't do any of that. So how did the Democrats make the case other than I hate Donald Trump?
Well, and see, that's why I say let them emphasize that. They have no case. All they're going to do is continue to say we hate Trump, he's a bad person, he shouldn't be allowed to hold office. That turns off voters. But don't forget, in this day and age now, just having the opposite view of the Democrats is enough to get you canceled on social media, on television, have your business attacked, have calls for you to be jailed. I mean, Democrats now can get away with anything. We've seen this with Alexandria Ocasio-Cortez, who completely made up her ordeal during the insurrection and was called out from it by Nancy Mace. And now AOC is trying to make herself out to be the victim and wants Nancy Mace taken off of social media for pointing out
or
that
anybody
Alexandria
else.
Ocasio-Cortez lied.
Yeah, she wants anybody else that retweeted or mentioned her on this whole thing. And I can't believe how blatant a lie this whole thing is turned out by AOC. And it should destroy her complete credibility. But knowing the Democratic Party, it might be a red badge of coverage where she gets to move up. I mean, look at Joe Biden with his plagiarizing speeches, lying about his background. I mean, he's now, the fake president of the United States. You look at Hillary Clinton. I mean, these Democrats seem to be able, Comey got away with it. Everybody gets away with it. So I'm frustrated that she completely lied about this, but Democrats are not held to the same standards as Republicans by any means.
No, they're not. And if you notice, a lot of the media is not even reporting about her lie.
They should be. They should be calling her out.
They should be, but they're not.
I know. David, I am frustrated. So, David, real quick, we're up against it. How do people follow you, hear more what you have to say, get involved?
Sure, they can go to strategicvisionpr.com. That's strategicvisionpr.com.
All right. Well, David, I want to thank you for joining us. I always like your magic crystal ball. Glad to hear that 2022 is looking good. It gives a little bit of optimism on this gray Friday as we head into the Super Bowl where we're not going. I mean, I thought it was the Patriots Bowl, but anyways, we're not going. So thank you, David, for joining us, and we'll talk to you soon. I'm Holly Robichaud. I'm filling in for Grace Curley this afternoon. If you want to be part of the conversation, hey, give us a call at 844-500-4242, and we'll put you right on. We'll be right back, and we're going to be talking a lot about impeachment, so stay tuned.
Late for dinner. Just don't call her Gracie. It's the Grace Curley Show.